think that this one deal is not worth it, you don't understand the business of real estate, because the way you treat me is going to affect your business for the rest of your life.
And one of the things that I believe is that leadership is ever more important than it ever was. And I don't mean that in the perspective that you as the manager or the performance coach or whatever. We know all real estate agents want to acquire clients consistently so that they can grow their business and income for that great lifestyle. This broadcast brings you the best and top people in the industry to support that quest. This is Dave Fanale, and I'm here to bring you the Real Estate Skill Builder broadcast, Real Estate Talk TGIF, brought to you by Real Estate Skill Builder and Align, your premier real estate solution. And here we are. It's Real Estate Talk TGIF, episode 431. And, you know, it's funny. A lot of agents just think of real estate as a career, but when you use it as a weapon to change lives, you get someone like my guest today, Angela Zorro. Angela left corporate America, became a top producing broker, helped more than 200 families, got her hands dirty, flipping houses, building an international real estate portfolio, became a managing broker and performance coach while raising 3 kids, and that's what she does. But here's what's different about Angela. She's not chasing transactions. She's chasing transformation. Angela has made it her mission to show people, especially those who historically haven't had a seat at the wealth building table, how real estate can completely change a family's financial future. She sells it, she invests in it, she teaches it, she lives it. Today, I want to find out what the heck is driving Angela Zorro. Angela, welcome to Real Estate Talk TGIF.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm like, oh my God, Dave, I need to hire you for the future of all promos.
Well, you know, the idea is to get you excited as we get started, because a lot of times, you know, these podcasts and episodes and stuff, I mean, this is a little different than most. I call it a broadcast. People call it a podcast. The reason I do that is because we're broadcasting to lives out there to help change them. And you know what? Even if something little someone hears, I mean, we've had, you know, top CEOs and presidents, top coaches. We had Leo Pareja. We've had Rich Davidson, who used to be the CEO of Century 21. We've had top team leaders like Brett Sikora and Kyle Whistle on, and we've had agents locally like Elias Christodolakis from Union County, New Jersey. We've had agents from Texas, all over the country, different agents. And it's always great to see a different perspective, but it always comes back to, we all talk about the consumer and we all talk about how we can help them, but we want to be able to change lives through wealth building and everything else. And as we get started, Angela, I do have one question I have to ask you before we really get into it. What does TGIF stand for?
Thank goodness it's Friday.
You know, I want to thank you for trying. You were really close there. I will tell you that 90% of the people on the broadcast, I'm going to say 95%, get it wrong, as you did. I'm sorry. Then it is. What else could it be, Angela? You know me well enough. Thank God it's Fanale. I mean,
got you. I love that. Okay, going forward, that is now. That is cool. Right. I'm always going to say that now.
So Angela, I talked about a lot of things in my intro, and there's a lot of things you've done in your life, and you've had to start from different places. You've changed your life, corporate America to real estate. Talk to me about your journey and where you're at today and what that journey from today means to you.
The journey, I think, changes, right? I think sometimes we have a certain goal, and then it just changes as we go when it comes to it. So what specifically do you mean, like in real estate or in community?
Well, basically, we want to know about you personally and what you've done, because let's face it, a lot of people that will watch this broadcast, you know, there'll be mortgage people, there'll be real estate agents, there'll be friends of mine, friends of yours, people that really aren't in real estate. But we want to know, a lot of people want to know what drives someone to get from point A to B. And right now you're at, I don't know, maybe you're at point K, who knows? But the point is what's driving you there, and what along the line, your journey helped you there.
Okay, understood now. So there's a couple different driving points. One for me is community. community is big for me because I want to give back. I come from a very humble beginnings. English is my second language. I was imported here from Colombia. So there's a lot of education barriers that I found a lot of the communities that I grew up with. So I'm very big on community and education, teaching at those communities that were not offered the knowledge, the access to know that they can do it if they are set up. And the way I do my when I meet my clients and I meet them, I always tell them, I said, I am not your typical realtor. I'm not going to just say we're going to sell a house. I am going to build your portfolio. I am going to say this is what we're going to do. I was actually just saying that on Saturday. I said, okay, you don't, this is a young couple, you don't have a family right now. Okay, so how can you do a multifamily to start? Can you do a year? So let's use our programs for FHA. Let's see if we can get you a grant. Then let's go to the next step. Like, all of these things are important for me so that they have, even if they don't do it, but at least they have the knowledge now that they can. Something that I wish I would have known as well when I was starting. Community is big for me. Inspiration. To live a living testimony that if I can do it, not knowing anything from this country, as beautiful as my story is, I am not unique. There are so many people of this country that have come and have pushed and have gone to school, have struggled and have built a business. So I think inspiring that, and then inspiring women is also big for me so that they see it. And I use my social media, I always joke, because I show the ins and outs of what it truly takes to make this business work. As pretty as some of the pictures are of high end and beautiful luxury cars, that's not the truth of it. Sometimes, I'll make jokes of like when people think I'm eating caviar and stuff like that, I'm really eating like old goldfish crackers in my car because we're rushing from one.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Or what it is to be a parent in this business, the sacrifices that we do, right? The beauty of it, but also the sacrifices. I've shown my son in my car late at night, like we're, eating late, we're in the car, he's eating a sandwich and I'm trying to get to the insurance. So really just being transparent and authentic that yes, it is a beautiful thing that we do in real estate, but it's also a lot of work that no one's willing to really show. So those are the biggest things for me that I feel that drive me. And then the last one is just, I want to honor my family of the sacrifices that they did to get here, right? My grandmother, who is the pillar, the matriarch of our family of four that came to this country, she's shy of like maybe 4 feet, even less. And she came here with two other women, my mother and my aunt, and she came here. She left everything to come here. So I feel like there's so much that she sacrificed that I saw her go through, everything that we struggled. So I'm not allowed to feel sorry for myself. I'm not allowed, which is good or bad. Like, there's too many people that pulled for me to let them down. There's too many too many sacrifices that my mom, my grandmother, and my aunt did to get me where I am, for me to just live a mediocre life.
It's inspiring to me to hear you talk about that. And then, having been in this business a very long time and having dealt with and interacted with many people of many different nationalities coming here. Being a landlord, you get to meet a lot of different types of people. Most of them are very good. Some of them are bad, but that's beside the point, right? And it is inspiring to hear what you're saying, because through experience, you get to see it, and it's reinforced as to, the determination, the work ethic, all this other stuff that's required for people to get to where you are, right? And you mentioned a process when you talk to people about growing a real estate portfolio or building that, which I do want to get to. But I want to talk about, a lot of people that will watch this might not be in real estate at this time, and they might be thinking about it. And there's a lot of people out there that think about it. And I know, being a coach myself and being a mentor, a certified mentor with my company, I know a lot of people, and I talk to a lot of people that want to become realtors, and they get their license because, they want to try it, or they want to be an investor. So they figured they'd get their license, and they don't need my help as a mentor. But if I'm around, they'll call me, but they don't want to pay for it, right? Those are the people that do not get to work with me, simply because, being serious about stuff is really important. And I know you've gone through different things where you've seen people that say they're serious, but they're really not, and you want it more than they do, right? And when you got into this business, you were transitioning from having a corporate job, and you said, okay, you just you burned the boats, right? So tell me how that feels, and what you actually did from step one to step 1A, from corporate to real estate. Tell me how that felt, because people are going to transition, and real estate agents that are transitioning to full-time is a very difficult step.
It is an incredibly difficult, because your mindset just has to change so much, because you're so used to getting that check, bi-weekly. You're so used to counting it in one way, that to then transition fully commission, I think that was the hardest avenue for me. I was told when I was in corporate, you'll be really good in real estate. And I remember saying, yeah, no. You mean I have to be commissioned? You mean I have to be commissioned? That means I don't know when my next paycheck is going to come in. At the time, I had my two older girls, not too much older, but my son was a newborn, like less than a year old. And I said, I don't know, but I think something shifted with my son. I also had him in my 30s. And I think something shifted. I said, is this the life I really want to lead? Is this what I want? I kind of put myself, I stepped out of the situation, and I said, is this what I want my son to remember? That I see him when he's asleep, and I come home when he's asleep. That didn't sit well with me, because as much as I admire, just like myself, like working people and working moms, I felt like I didn't have the quality of life that I wanted. I made good money, but I didn't have that quality. And like you said, I completely burned the boat. I don't necessarily teach that to my agents as much, because that is a very high level of stress to incorporate. And what I did is that I resigned. And then my last day, I immediately started real estate on that Monday. I resigned officially on a Friday. Monday, I started real estate school with no savings, no backup, just
holy
pure
crap.
grit. Yes.
So the question for most people would be, what are you, out of your freaking mind? Are you crazy?
100%. That was crazy.
Okay, good. We're good there.
Yes. But one thing I always believed, for at least my personality, again, you have to be self-aware. I was like, if I always have plan B, I won't focus on plan A. And I knew that if I immerse myself and said, no matter what, I have to make this happen, one way or another, I was either going to go broke, which I did, or I was going to make it. It was either sink or swim for me. Not everybody can do that, because I was incredibly stressful. But I felt that, I don't know, I just had this huge sense of I've been through so much in my life. Previously, I found out, I was on a personal note, I found out that I was 20. I finally found out I was pregnant with my daughter. And then my husband got deployed to Iraq. So I had been already, 10 years, 15 years, so many things previously, living in poverty. I don't want to say it that way, because it's not great to say it, but we did. We were very low on the poverty scale. I had already gone through so much. I'm like, what's the worst thing that can happen? So I went for it.
And that's the thing. You just so many things here. What's the worst that could happen? And I have said that to agents on a level of, they don't like picking up the phone, and I would say to them, well, what's the worst that could happen? Right? But when we're talking about life and financial situations and all this other stuff, it's a little bit deeper than that. I mean, I've heard people say burn the boats, as I said a minute ago, right? But you said that if you had a plan B, you basically have said that means you're planning for plan A not to work, right? And that's a different perspective that is rare, right? So you get into this business finally, and you take the real estate class, and you and I know that the real estate class, the real estate course for the license, teaches you how to pass a test. It doesn't teach you how to do shit when it comes to this business, right?
Nope, not even
So
open a
what
lot.
did you do? So what did you do, and how did you get into production?
So the beginning was I would just contact everyone. I had this, so I remember I would go by days. Like that's how intense I was. I'm like, okay, day one, did I speak to anyone? Day two, what did I do? I was very particular about it. And I think my first listing appointment was day 6 or 7
Really?
because, yes, because I was just so like, okay, I have to be organized. Even though I didn't know what I was doing, I knew I had to hunt. I knew that because at the time, leads wasn't really a big thing. So the broker I was with at the time, he's like, you need to hunt. And I'm like, he didn't really give me specifics on how to hunt, but he told me go talk to people. So I'm like, okay, I could do that. Ironically, no one believes me, but I was actually very shy and I didn't even have Instagram. I didn't even know what Instagram was. Because I was such a private person. But I had a really great lender. It's actually one of my lenders now and good friend. She said, shy agents have skinny wallets. So I had to suck it up. And I spoke to everyone. And one of the things that he said that I never forgot, he said, you need to speak to at least 10 people a day, give out your cards to 10 people. And I took that to heart. I think the greatest asset that I have that I'm very blessed with is that I'm very coachable. If you tell me, if you've been to where I need to go, even if I don't think you're right, I will do it. I try to keep my reservations and I just say, hey, you've been there. I'm just going to do it. And that's what he did. And that's what I did. So even if I had prospected or done everything I needed to, and it was 8 o'clock at night and I didn't give out 10 cards to 10 individuals, I would go to Home Depot, ShopRite. I would make all kinds of conversations until I got those 10. So I would be up almost 5, 6 in the morning and I wouldn't get home until 9 or 10 because I wanted to meet what he told me would make me successful.
So okay, so he told you to go talk to 10 people, give out 10 cards, etc. And then but he didn't tell you how. Did he tell you what to say? Were you worried about scripts? Well, I don't like that script, or I'm not a script person. I hear all this shit all
I
the
didn't
time,
even
right?
know scripts. I didn't even know scripts existed. I didn't know. He just said, just make conversation. And of course, I didn't know what that meant either, but I'm like, okay. And what I think separated me was that I've always been very curious in general. Like I've always been very present when I'm speaking to someone. So I became curious and that's what I did. I just asked questions. If they were, I never, I don't know how I tailored it, but I just spoke to everyone. You know how I did it? Now I think about it because I really did believe that being a homeowner was an opportunity that many of us weren't given. So I think for me, that's how I always did it. So my first buyer was Babies R Us, if you guys remember that. And she was my cashier. And I told her, I'm curious, have you ever considered buying? And she said, no one's ever told me. I said, well, let me teach you. And she was my first buyer. She actually might be she's also going to be my sale in a year or two because we still keep in contact. So I think for me, it was always like, I am so excited that I can teach you how to be wealthy that I didn't take it personal if they would say yes or no to me, because I felt that I really was teaching them. And I was really coming from an educational standpoint that even if they didn't go with me, it was okay. But at least I taught someone else that no one was willing to give them an opportunity or even offer it to them to buy.
Yeah, so you mentioned before about helping people become wealthy and grow income, but this is your first buyer. So did you know what you were saying when you said, "Let me help you become wealthy," or were your thoughts just, if you buy a house, you become wealthy, and there's other things you can do? I don't know what it is yet, but I'm going to help you. Was that more or less what it was?
No, I had educated myself very properly. Like I said, like I was blessed. Like we had a conversation earlier, like during the time that I started, NARUP was pretty much the biggest force of education. So I would pay, like you said, like pay for value. I would go and I would write everything down, everything that they said. I met with lenders and I said, walk me through the process. What do my clients look like? What does FHA look like? What does VA look like? What does USDA? Like I became very enamored with our process to really understand it. And my buyer's consultation, my kids all laugh at me. All 3 of my kids can verbatim give you the buyer's consultation because they have just heard it so many times in the car, in the house, in the office, because I've always been very big. I don't care if you bought 1,000,000 houses. I will sit with you for 30 minutes and explain the way the process works. And that has been standard process ever since.
So I want everybody to listen again, go back, rewind this like a minute, and listen to what Angela said. She's talking about having a positive attitude, having a work ethic, getting things done, practicing, which is something that most people do not do. I mean, look at it. We're an industry where we practice on our customers. How does that really work out for a lot of people? It doesn't. And then, but it's actually a help to you, because when they find you and you know what you're talking about, then that makes your job that much easier, right?
Absolutely.
So yes, whoever's watching this and listening, thinking, well, I got to do that. Remember that the dumber you sound, the better we sound, because we know what we're saying and what we're doing, because we do the great practice work. We do that an awful lot. So as you're going through in your career and starting it and getting it going, what were some of the factors that really pushed you? I mean, you had your original manager or broker that pushed you and said, go talk to these people. Mm-hmm. After that, and from that forward, what were you, and you mentioned NAREP, what were the things that allowed you to excel?
I'm a loss for words on who says it, but I think it's like success is going through failure without the loss of enthusiasm. I'm probably paraphrasing it. And that was kind of big for me. I just once I was able to list my first property, I was like, I can do this, because all I needed was that opportunity. It took me, I think, 5 months or so to get my first deal under contract or so. And I felt like after that, I was like, okay, I need guidance and the right culture and to be around the right people. That's what shifted. The beginning brokerage got, they were good for the time that they had. I think we've had this conversation before. I think I've also outgrown different companies too, which also some people make the decision a little longer. I have always been very swift in my decision making, whether that's a good or bad thing, but it's always been a blessing to each step along the way. And I've been that was big for me. And the second one, I think, is self-development. I truly started to invest in myself and realize I don't want to curse. But Rachel, I think the best way to put it is Rachel Hollis. She had a book and I loved it. And she says, being fucked up is not your fault, but staying fucked up is. And I knew, and I told this to, isn't it a beautiful quote?
I love that. I really love that. Yeah.
And it really stuck with me because I told agents many times, I'm like, if you hear at home that you're not a good communicator, your clients are going to say you're not a good communicator. If you get agitated easily, guess what? You're as good as a self-development as you have is only as good as your business is going to grow. What got you here was not going to get you there. And I knew that I had the grit. I knew that I had that. But I also knew that I am because of my upbringing, I am very military style. I am very of those things. And I needed to learn how to tailor that to this business. I needed to learn how to, have those conversations, how to, be more calm. Like, my family was very military and they were also very Spanish. Colombian is very yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. So the American culture has always just baffled me a little bit because I'm like, why do we have to convince people to do their job? That was one of the struggles I had in corporate America. They're like, Angela, you just want them to do it. Yes, they're getting paid. What do you mean? Like, why don't they do it? And those things. So some of those, but again, I had to learn how to say that nicely, how to properly inspire and engage people to do what's good for them. Because some people, they just don't. So self-development, motivation, and obviously, not obviously, but because those that have known me, but I'm very big a believer in God. And I do think where there's a part in the Bible that says what you do for work, you do it to honor God, not people. And I'm very big on that. What I do daily It's not to my boss, it's not to a brokerage. I'm held to the standard of a higher power to do the right thing when no one's looking, to do this to the best of my ability. And I think holding myself to that standard has always also driven the goal for excellence.
I think faith is really important in everything we do. More and more for me as well. I mean, one of the things I look at is, you know what, with all the mistakes I've made, with all the issues and problems I've encountered, you wonder, if you think back and say to yourself, how the hell did I get out of that crap? Well, it's your faith that got you out of that crap. It's somebody else that guided you out of it. And now it's time to realize that. And realizing that will also help you move forward. Don't mean to go down that path, but it's very important that people understand that something helped you or something got you to where you are. I always say everything's going to be all right, because I know that when I'm thinking it and I'm believing it and moving forward, there's a lot of things there that really are deep down that help you get where you're going to go. Faith is probably that thing. There's a lot of things that you've been involved with in building relationships. We said, and you just went through it, you've changed companies several times, and you talked about one of the things, and you used the word once or twice, but it has to do with your background. It has to do with where you come from, but it has to do with real estate and the businesses you've been involved in. And that word is culture, right? So, one of the things people, being a broker owner for many years, and as time went on, it was people would talk about, well, what's your culture like? I don't know. What's your culture like? That's something that's really difficult to, as a broker owner, you want to do certain things. But see, being a broker owner, the difficult part is you're the owner, right? You're the one that has to make everything, all the magic happen. And it's difficult, right?
Yes.
And sometimes the wrong people are in the wrong seats, right? And the right people are in the wrong seats. When we talk about culture and different companies, as you said, you've made decisions quickly to move from one to the other. And the fact is that you are back where you started. So
Correct.
talk to me about how culture has affected your life from real estate broker to the companies you were with to where you are now.
Yeah. Well, culture, it's something, it's so funny because it's something, like you said, it's kind of intangible that you can't put it, but if you're in the bad one, you're in a bad one. It's like one of those hit or misses. And one thing, integrity for me and ethics is very important in a culture, in a company. And that was one thing that where I am now, especially, was always very big. And I did struggle that when I left here and I pursued other opportunities, that not everybody had those same stance, right? Like, for example, like somebody calls in the office. If that's your lead, it goes back to you. Something that at that time I thought was so basic because it was so standard here, that I didn't realize that other companies don't do that other companies don't run by that. And something to that. And I was like, those things were very, although they seemed small, they were very bothersome, right? Or other things that, companies sometimes, how do I put it delicately? It's like I teach my kids, like, lying by omission is still lying, right? And that became also the standard in certain companies. And that's just not the way I operate. I am not by no means perfect, by no means, but I do, again, hold myself to a certain standard. And I know that the work that I've done also brings a lot of people to different companies, and they are trusting me that the decision I just made is going to be in the best interest of all of us. And I do hold myself to that. So I won't stay in a company for long if I feel that there's issues. I won't stay in a company for long if they're not keeping their word or leadership, because if you're not keeping your word to me, when I'm usually one of the top producers, what makes me think you're going to keep your word to somebody that just walked through the door? And those were always very big for me, because it's not just, yes, I want to grow. Obviously, we all want to do it, but I also want to be in an environment that what I'm creating here, that it feels very familial. It feels very like, you need help, I have you. You have that, because in a brokerage or in a home, I try to say, okay, it's us against the world, right? Like anything in here, we, guard against gossip. That's, if we have an issue, we have a conversation about it, we mitigate it, we keep it simple. Those things, I think, just not only create a great environment just in general mentally, but I think it just creates it fosters an environment of growth. Because if everybody feels that they're pushing for each other, or I'm reposting you, or I'm tagging you, and everyone's invested in everyone's growth, I think it just creates such a great environment that you can see it. It's palpable. People can see it. They're like, oh my God, that brokerage is like, everyone gets along, blah, blah. Now it's not just me saying, hey, my company, it's everyone else saying, oh my God, look, like they're so excited to see each other. They're happy. You come into the office, the standard is anybody that walks through the door, do you want coffee, water, or tea? Those were always standards that we had in order to grow that, just bring a good environment.
So let me give you some pushback on offices and brokerages and environments. Like, for instance, I'm a member of a team that has over 250 agents, and we're in 8 states. And how many people come into the office, right? A few, right? When you're talking about a few in, like, say, 150 agents in New Jersey, that's not a lot, right? And then people talk about, well, what's your culture like? Culture is not defined by bricks and mortar.
Correct.
Right? It's defined by a lot of other things. So bear with me here. So as time has gone on, and I've been in this business, first licensed in 1976. I was 2 years old, but that's beside the point, right? But I've seen a lot of things. I've seen what brokerages meant, what companies meant, how agents were involved in brokerages going through the 90s, the 2000s, and 2010s and stuff. And what we see now is what the most thing that we're hearing is that it doesn't matter what company you're with. It's all about you, the agent, and how you build your own identity and your brand. Because what you just said is a little contradictory to that, right? What are your thoughts on what I just said?
I think that you can be, okay, so to a few parts. One, I believe 100% your culture, it should not be stopped by brick and mortar. Absolutely not. There's a lot of different avenues that I touch my agents that are incredibly happy. They've been here since the beginning of the company, and they don't really come to the office. So I do agree with that when it comes to the brick and mortar. When it comes to everyone saying, okay, yes, your individual, your value is like your brand, which I agree about that. However, I do, push back in the sense of like, yes, but what is the support you have in the back end? Right? Yes, your brand is your brand. You are your agent. You are yourself. But if you have nothing supporting behind you or nothing around you, how far are you truly going to grow? Right?
Exactly. Yes.
If you're the biggest fish in the pond, you're in the wrong pond. I am a person. Not everyone is motivated. Not everyone is motivated by someone ahead of them. I am a person that I am, again, no, far from perfect. But if I see somebody that's doing more than me, I am going like, hey, can I get a cup of coffee with you? Is there something I can learn? But I've been like that always because that motivates me. To some people that doesn't, and that's fine. Thankfully we are around people that those inspire us, right? Like Christian is our CEO and our broker record. He motivates me. Like, how do you build this? I saw you flipping, now you're building new construction. All of that motivates me. That doesn't necessarily mean I want to do that because I have enough stress in my life, but showing those, I'm really big on your support. You can be as great as you can, but if there's no one there supporting you or pushing you, you're stuck.
No, you're absolutely correct. And it's really important what you just said, because you don't have to come to the office to have a culture.
Correct.
It's the support and process. Like, you and I, we get recruited all the time. We get the calls, and I kind of think they're fun. It's simply because it's mostly a big part of what I do. And I look at it and say, okay, so what are you offering me? So I want agents to listen to this, right? So when I get a phone call that's trying to recruit me, we're going to help you grow your business. I said, well, okay, tell me more about that. And they say, well, we're 100% company where you'll get all the money you make. And, we're going to give you leads, and you can do this, that, and the other thing, but, we're 100% company. And then my question is, how does that help me grow my business?
Correct. You have
And
no
then,
idea anything.
and then cricket, right?
Correct.
Because the people you want to work with are the people that are going to push you into striving and to help you strive for more. And really great line you just used that I applauded was, if you're the biggest fish in your pond, you're in the wrong pond, right? My goal with what I do in life when I go to events, I don't go as many as I used to. I used to go to a lot of them. I want to be, and I'm going to act like the dumbest person in the room, because a dumb question I think I have, I will ask. The reason I ask it, because I know 50% of that room wants to ask that question, but they won't, right? That's going to help me network more with people, which is why we go to events. You know what? Little hinges swing big doors. And that's where you go. And big things happen at little events, and big things happen at events all the time, where you learn how to grow, right? And that's what your culture is about too, with the people that you're able to communicate with and to interact with. So all right. So you're a producing agent as well as a managing broker. How does that help you motivate your agents in your office and in your company? Does that ever get in the way?
So I'm transitioning out of full-time production. So that's why my numbers in the last couple of years, because I've been in management levels, have slowed down, because we have to be transparent. If I'm doing the 15 million and I'm running an office, something's gonna give, right? Like it's just normal math, right? And I made the decision to put the management and the agents ahead of it, which I am okay with, right? Not many people can, and that's perfectly fine. But that's where it would take over, because again, 15 million, 3 kids, and a management office, something's going to give. And I just didn't want that. But to what the asset to it is that I'm still in the grind. I still know what's going to get the offers accepted. I'm still speaking to sellers, and I don't ever want to fully get out, because I still want to be in touch with the market. I remember working for a brokerage that you could tell he had no idea what was happening anymore, because he wasn't producing, which was fine. But even when they said the guidelines of FHA, they were wrong. And I remember going like, how are you on a call with 400 agents and you don't know what you're talking about? Like, I never wanted to be that. Like, that was the thing that terrorized. Like, now, if I make a mistake, by all means, but I never wanted to be so out of touch that an agent calls me and goes, how do I negotiate this? Or I had a seller say this, and I'm just like, I don't know. No, I never wanted to do that. And that's the asset of still being in there. And then you still continue your network, right? Because, hey,
Yes.
I know, let me call Dave. Dave knows that I work well. What can we do with this offer? You know that I joke with my clients. I said, most of the homes you see on Zillow, we've already seen it before it hits you. Our network has already figured it out. And that's still big for me. The reputation that we have. I don't want to be the agent that no one knows anymore because they've lost touch, or their name doesn't really mean anymore because, oh no, she doesn't know anything more. She just stays in the office all day. Or no. That's another asset. My agents have loved that I've been able to get their offers accepted just because of relationships and communications. And they know that, okay, well, I actually had a seller. It's a funny story that he went to, he told my agent that he said, now it's the best thing of both worlds. Now I have 2 of you and I don't have to pay both of you. You're both at the same place anymore. So he knows, obviously, he's going to go to my agent, which is fine. Now he knows that if my agent ever has an issue, he can go to me, and there you go. Now he doesn't have to pay us both.
Well, that's you exemplify the word leader and leadership. And one of the things that I believe is that leadership is ever more important than it ever was. And I don't mean that in the perspective that you as the manager or the performance coach or whatever is the leader. The leadership has to be able to make leaders out of the people they are leading, right? And they have to be leaders in the community. They have to be leaders of their own selves. Because let's face it, you can't want it more than your agent wants it. That's where the problems occur, and that's where your frustration will come up. How do you think people are adapting to that personification of leadership as agents?
I think it's right. Even when we're parents and we're kids, it's like, it's not what you say, it's what you do. And I'm very big on modeling that behavior. So yes, I'm here early and sometimes I'm here late. If you need me at 5:30, I'm here. If you need me on a Saturday, I think it's that. And then showing them, like I'm telling you to post and give value, I'm doing post and give value. I'm asking you to go out, you're cold calling, I'm cold calling agents. Like just kind of modeling that has been the biggest show because they're seeing it, right? And we're speaking and I'm spending time with them and I'm investing in them. I'm calling to check on them, right? I always say my agents are now my new clients. I'm trying to, I want to, how are you? How's everything going? I want to know what's happening, right? Not every brokerage does that and that's fine, but I want to know. That's part of my value. Hey, I want to know that you are stressed out about a client. Hey, I want to know that you're going on a trip. How was your trip? I want to know those things because I feel that, again, it fosters what we were talking about. Even if you don't come into the office, I know what's happening in your life. So you feel more at home, like you feel comfortable that this is what I'm doing. You were talking about, it's so funny because you say about people calling you, and it's so funny because when I recruit, I don't even say what I can do with your business. I say, come in, let me know about your business, because how do I know what you need? Like you said, like you can't say you're going to grow my business if you haven't even asked me, where does my business come from? What value do you have? I took a whole different approach with our recruiting, and thank God we've doubled the office, because my thing was like, hey, let me make this as a coaching session. Where does this go? Let me go. Because I think that's the value, because you could tell me all day that this system, I got this CRM, I got this. We all have all the pretty toys, all of this. But what do specifically you see in my gap in mine that is going to grow my business? I think that's where a lot of these recruiting things go wrong, because you're truly not offering anything of value. And if the most you got to tell me is commission, then you're speaking to the wrong agent.
Yeah, it's funny. So I'm going to mention my company's name for a reason. Being with EXP, it's one of the things EXP is, I'm going to help you grow with stocks. I'm going to help you grow with a revenue share, right? And as some of the people in the company, what do we say is you got to stop EXPing all over people, right? Because that's not going to get you anywhere.
Valid.
Right? So, and that also leads to, there's two things I want to hit before we finish. You mentioned a word, and to me, it's probably the biggest word we've said in the last 43 minutes or so, and that's integrity, right? There's a lot of, look, I believe that our industry is growing in integrity simply because we're starting to not allow or not get involved with those that lack it, right? Where before it was, I'm not talking about reporting people or putting in complaints. I'm talking about people actually stepping up and either not working with them, not being with them, or saying, cut the shit. How important do you believe, as you just know, I do now, how is integrity important to you, and how do you think it should help us?
I think from a basic standard, it's very big for me. Like we were speaking previously, my son, all my kids, whether they like it or not, they have learned that word. Integrity is doing the right thing when no one is looking, because, well, one, someone's always looking and you just don't know that part. And two, I am grateful that I don't want to call them, because not all of them, but like the COVID realtors, where they were taught no matter what, you just got to get it done. Not always, right? But I call them the ends justify the means realtors, right? And that's just not the way I operate. And I am that person that I don't necessarily make it public, but I will pull the agent aside and say, like, what you're doing is going to cost you business. We're not going to work together. And if you think that this one deal is not worth it, you don't understand the business of real estate, because the way you treat me is going to affect your business for the rest of your life. Not just because of and I don't mean it as a threat, it might sound like it, but I mean, like, from the standpoint of my listings, from my buys, from the people that know me, because your reputation, you live and die by your reputation in this business. And it may not be great. People may not like that, but it is the truth. If people know you don't act in good faith, if people know that enough times your reputation will follow you. So I am glad that we're doing that. And that's also why I'm back where the company I started, because we are very squeaky clean. And I appreciate that. We don't have the reputation of sending all false pre-approval. We don't have the reputation of sending false proof of funds. You can tell the way the business has been recently. That's not our reputation. We're not going to change commissions last minute. Like, we're not known for that. We're known for, we all want to get the deal done so that we can help the family and go to the next one. And I think that's the most, I love quotes, as you can tell as I read, but I tell this almost every class to my agents, especially when they onboard. And I say, Zig Ziglar is one of my favorites. And he said, you can get anything you want in life if you just help enough people get what they want. And I am a huge believer in that. That will just, I'm like, you can be very, very wealthy and not have to screw anyone.
Right. And last but not least, I said I would get back to this from the very beginning. And I think this is a strategy that, you started by talking about helping people get wealthy in real estate. Right. And you spoke about something that I've helped a number of people be able to do, is you spoke about, a 2-family, a 3-family, buying that first. And there's a process by using FHA or whatever and staying there for a year. You mentioned that. So talk to me about that a little bit, because I want you to be able to give insight to those agents as well as buyers or sellers that might be watching, to talk about your process and how that works.
Yeah. So I assess each client or couple as what would be the ideal situation for them, not just from a house standpoint. So I asked them questions. I said, hey, I'm curious. Are you okay with living in apartments? What are your plans for the future? I go really in depth. I'm not a financial financial advisor, but I go really in depth. And I say, okay, and I ask, maybe sometimes they're overly questions. Maybe I can do that because I'm a mom and I've been in that situation. But I asked them, I said, I'm curious. So when you have the baby, do you plan to stay home? Do you want to be able to stay home? Now, I'm speaking to a couple that's never had kids, mind you, right? And the reason I say that is because I want to give them an advice that I wish somebody would have told me in the future. So what I was telling them, because they don't have children right now, I told them, okay, so how about, think of it this way. If we can get you into ideally a 4-family, but you can never find a 4-family, right? But a multi-family, a 3 or 2 family, right. Okay. We use FHA, you put 3.5% down. Now you have that multifamily. Now you give yourself, if you could be there for a year, you'll save up. And then we're going to go to, if you're at 3, ideally, let's try a 2-family in a better area. If we can't pull that off, then maybe we can try, something similar. And then if you could pull that off in another year, maybe we then go to the 1-family. Okay, or a condo. So now you have these assets of a 2 families or 3 families that will help you there. And I say that last one because I said, what if you want to enjoy your child? Whether that's politically correct or not, it is what it is. But what if you want to enjoy your child? What if you don't want to go back to work in 2 weeks? What if you don't want to? What investment do you have right now that can have you spend a couple months with your child and you're not losing your mind? And I bring that into perspective because I say not many people are advising properly, I think, or giving them ideas, because as a mom, first of all, no one advises as a mother anyway. That's besides the point. But sometimes you don't want to. With, my second daughter, I had to go back in a week. I hated that. With a passion. Thankfully, with my son, I was able to take 5 months, which for me, it may not seem a lot for people, but I was the happiest woman in the whole world, right? So those things, when it comes to a family basis, you ask them. I'm not telling you don't have to go to work. I'm all for women empowerment, everything. Or the opposite. What about the dad? What if do you want to stay home? There's nothing wrong with that. There's a lot of dads I know now that stay home. Like, what about that? So I give them, but I say, what are you going to do from a financial standpoint that's backing up that decision, right? If you have a couple properties, or if you have some commercials, or you have something there, now you can make these decisions out of want instead of necessity. And I feel like that's the biggest wealth building. The fact that you can make a choice without it being like, I have to. And that for me was big. That for me was always very massive because I love what I do and I know all the sacrifices that we make in real estate. But to be able to tell my child, and they see it now, wow, mom's been on her own for 6 years and she bought an investment property. Mom's been on her own. And again, it's not just for me, but just like, educate that. And I think if we can start looking at people in a holistic level, not just for this house or something like that, and just even if they don't do it, just give them different ideas of where they could do, what they can do, you'd be surprised at how you change, again, educate them in their perspective, and they won't forget you.
So, ladies and gentlemen that will watch this broadcast as we finished it up, I want you to remember that when I have local agents on this broadcast, it's not because they just got their license. It's not because they're friends of mine. It's because they have insight and they have intelligence, and they know what the hell they're talking about. What you just heard right now was one of the most important things that anyone can talk to, either a first-time home buyer or a different home buyer, whatever it is. That is an easy way. I know I'm using the word easy. That is an easy way to build wealth, because let's face it, you do the 3-family, maybe you do another one, maybe you do a two-family. In the third year, maybe you just buy a single family for yourself. And guess what? In 3 years, depending on what state you're in, you've got between $1 million and $2 million worth of real estate in your name. How cool is that? To have a person that knows what they're talking about, that knows how to do that, is rare. Angela, I want to thank you so much for being on the broadcast today.
Thank you.
It was so much fun. We didn't get to half the stuff I wanted to talk about, typically that's what happens. I want to thank you for being on. I got a couple more things, and the most important question that I will ask you, aside what TGIF stands for, will be,
yes, I know that now.
How do I help you grow your business?
Dave, you have always been a very wealth of knowledge, and I appreciate that, because you were never coming from a standpoint of what can I get from you? You've always been from the education point. So I don't mind us grabbing some lunch or something. You teach me what you've learned from like recruiting and standpoint, because I know I've been very blessed that I've been able to double our office now in a very short amount of time when it comes to recruiting, just because of me being like this. But any tips or tricks that that will give me more value to our possible agents, I'd love that.
Great. And like every broadcast, and you might not know this, but everybody gets a hat that comes on this broadcast, and this one's coming out to you. Really quickly, we have a really different type of guest next week. He is the CEO of Home Love Construction. And if you're on Instagram and looking at building stuff, or Facebook, you might know this guy's name. His name is Brad Backhand. He's the CEO of Home Love Construction, and he criticizes what other people do sometimes, but also educates in the construction industry. It's going to be really cool because I watch his stuff, and maybe I'm the only one looking at it, but you know what? It's going to be a cool broadcast next week. I'm glad to have Brad coming on. And that's really it for today. I want to thank everyone for being on. Next week, 11 a.m. Central. Remember, this can be seen on Spotify as well as KGCI Real Estate Radio. Thank you so much for being on. And guess what? We'll see you all next week. Everybody have a great weekend. Angela, stay on as we go off. Thank you, everybody.